You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. You use the money to get their attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Use organization to put pressure on them. Let me just say this. You know, the Republicans have now just gone all out and they're not even disguising what they're doing. They made an argument. I'm sure you talked about this earlier in the week, but they made an argument in front of the Supreme Court when Supreme Court Justice Barrett asked them, well, why are you suppressing minority voters? And they just said, yeah, we're doing it because that's how we're going to win politics. I mean, so racists aren't even pretending to talk about fraud or any of the other garbage that we knew was garbage, but now there's no filter in between it. They're very direct with what they're trying to do. So we know what they're doing, and they're talking to the Supreme Court directly about what they're doing. And so we definitely have to put pressure on these actual corporations, just like you mentioned earlier when they were attacking LGBT rights. Appropriately, pressure was put on them. That same type of pressure and that same type of organization from us. I'm glad to see many of our black organizations joining together to take out that ad. I think they got to go. They got to do a lot. I know we got the NAACP that just got $100 million. We got Black Lives Matter. To me, some money and some resources, some serious resources should be put into organizing down here and stopping this, and then putting pressure on these Democrats to make sure that they get off of their ass and stop making excuses and pass the bill. Filibuster doesn't matter. This is about protecting democracy. And so we need to put the pressure on the people that we got elected, because without black people, there is no Democratic Party. I don't understand what Democrats don't understand about if we don't have a functioning democracy where we can have access to the ballot and black people aren't able to vote in an accessible manner, they also don't get elected. So I don't understand the hesitation in wanting to support. This is actually in their interest. So we have to give them the courage that they don't have, and that comes through organization and pressure, period.
Candace, go ahead.
Companies can't have it both ways. I mean, on the one hand, they pledge money for support for Black Lives Matter and to fight racism, throughout the beginning of 2020. But then on the other hand, they will not support this idea that getting more people to vote in order to put legislators in office to vote for issues like racism or to fight racism and to fight things that are affecting African Americans in the worst way. They can't understand that, those dots are to be connected. It actually makes no sense, and it would serve in their best interest in order to step up and do this. There's this saying that bad people who are elected into office are elected by good people who just can't vote or won't vote. And this is what they are doing by not showing their support. But we know that the organization is out there. We saw what Georgia can do. And as you said, this is ground zero so that people can understand what more Georgia can do and what more they are doing right now in order to make sure that this voter suppression doesn't happen. We're really living in the era of Jim Crow at this point when we look at everything that's in place in order to prevent people from voting. Like was what was just spoken. The Republicans aren't shy about it. They're saying this is why we're doing it. We simply just want to win, and we want to win at all costs. But this is something that can't be tolerated. And I think that probably by next week, we will see somebody step up and say that we're going to change and invest in something that we see just as important as, maybe the $100 million that we invested last year during the times of Black Lives Matter.
At the end of the day, Michael, again, pressure. You got to pressure, and you got to use the money.
Roland, hey, brother, I agree with them 1,000%. As one of my callers, John, says from Detroit, look, remember last Friday on this show, I said we have to leverage our economics to enforce our politics, and I talked about FEC.gov, Federal Elections Commission, and looking and see which corporations donate to members of the House of Representatives and U.S. Senate. Brother, this is right on time right here. And I think we may have to probably implement this strategy. This is redistributing the pain. We probably have to implement this strategy also to push H.R. 1 through the Senate, because they're not 60 votes in the Senate for H.R. 1, and also the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Okay, now we know both those bills passed the House of Representatives Thursday night, but there's not 60 votes in the Senate for this. But if we connect all this together, some of these same corporations came out to donate money during the George Floyd protests and things like this. Okay, well, now where do you stand on the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act? Okay, where do you stand on HR 1? We spend hundreds of billions of dollars a year collectively with these various corporations. So it's time to leverage our economics to enforce our politics. And, you know, I want to find out from them what the next steps are, because it may take nationwide economic pressure on these various corporations. OK, and we saw this take place, you know, back in 1960, the Nashville economic boycott in 1960, which was the economic boycott of the downtown business district, which broke the back of segregation. And African Americans up north who could go to the Woolworths and Kresge's and things like this, they started boycotting the same corporations up north that their brothers and sisters were boycotting down south, and it spread to 59 cities. And it broke the back of segregation in Nashville, Tennessee. So we have to take a page from history. We have to listen to the entire approximately 43 minutes of I've Been to the Mountaintop, April 3rd, 1968. I talked about redistributing the pain last week on your show last Friday. And lastly, Dr. King mentioned Coca-Cola, Wonder Bread, Heart's Bread, and Seal Test Milk in that speech. Those were corporations he was talking about economic withdrawal from. And he said we have to always anchor our external direct action with the power of economic withdrawal. This is exactly what he was talking about.
And again, folks, what has to happen is this is also why black media matters, because we're going to stay focused on this consistently. We told you earlier this week, go to my iPad, this right here, this is what they have in the bill. Limit Sunday voting to one optional Sunday in each county. Reduce ballot drop boxes by requiring them to be located inside early voting locations, meaning you can only access them when the early voting location is open. And keep in mind, the Ohio Secretary of State, where Rob is, they want to do the exact same thing there. This is the Republican playbook across the country. Require a driver's license number, state ID number, or copy of photo ID to vote absentee. Set a deadline to request absentee ballots 11 days before Election Day. Disqualifies provisional ballots cast in the wrong precinct. Ban outside funding of elections from nonprofit organizations. Prohibits governments from mailing unsolicited absentee ballot applications. Creates instant runoff voting for military and overseas voters. Schedule runoffs for 4 weeks after Election Day rather than the current 9 weeks. Prevent free food and drinks for voters waiting in line to vote. Restricts early voting buses to emergencies.
I mean, wow. They really went through everything to say, how can we take away anything that helps anybody that's might be poor, might be marginalized, people that might move. Their goal is to make sure that only people that have lived at an address for a long time, that have voted, that are usually white probably, can vote. I mean, they're being very intentional to say you can't have fun. Like, so I don't even see I think a lot of it has to be unconstitutional. Like, I don't see how you can ban nonprofits from. That's like free speech to me. Because look, we have a ruling from this conservative Supreme Court that says that money is speech. So I don't know how in the world you can say people can't spend money to protect the right to vote. I mean, this is just insane. But so we got to make sure that people understand that you're right, Roland. They're going to do this. They're going to replicate this. They're going to try to push this through, because unlike the Democratic Party, who can't even agree on things that they say they agree on, like the minimum wage, Republicans can agree on the most horrible things because it protects their power. And we have to make sure that we give more strength, we give more courage to the Democratic Party. I think that's what we have to do. Unfortunately, we shouldn't have to do that either. We have to put pressure on these corporations. We also have to put pressure on these Democrats who say they support all these things, and when they get there, they find every excuse. You and I, Roland, we both pledge excuses are tools of incompetence. I don't want to hear no excuse about why you can't pass voting rights. You have the majority. You have the presidency. Pass the damn bill.
Candace, when you look at again what they put out there. Really? Water and food. Yeah, water and food.
That's what I was going to say. Put the pressure on, because we're not looking at just voting rights. We're looking at human rights. That's the one thing that stood out to me. I mean, water, that you're not going to give somebody water in order to complete something that belongs to them, that the Constitution has already given them in the name of democracy. There's nothing even hidden on this list that says nothing else besides we're just doing anything that we need to do in order to take away the rights of just the basic human being. This makes absolutely no sense. The pressure has to be put on for these companies in order to change their minds, change their tactics. And I would imagine that this weekend, they're going to be speaking on Zoom, and they're going to be having conversations to figure out what to do, because the pressure is being put on, and they're going to have to make a decision, or else it's going to hurt them financially.
Absolutely that, folks. Greg Palast, our good friend, he picked up on this food and water deal. This was an ad his folks put together. Watch this.
Georgia.
Having a playback issue, and so we'll get that sorted out in just a second. But folks, again, we're going to stay on top of this, keep covering this, and letting you know exactly what is happening next with this. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.